In this lesson, we'll look at how we create links from one file to another, but that link won't just take us to the very top of the page. We can make links to specific parts of a given page, and that's what we'll do in this lesson. In the Project Files folder, in Chapter 5, you'll find lesson_05_home.htm. Let's bring that file up in Firefox, or your default web browser. If you look at this file, it looks very much like what we've been working on before, but there's been a little bit more text added to our bullet points. The text image facts have been added underneath each of the bullet points listed here in this HTML page. And we can see that if we open lesson_05_home in our text editor on the Macintosh, and if I scroll down, I can see, and I'll just increase the size of this window a little bit so it's a little easier on the eye, that inside our list item, a simple break, the text image facts, and a few more breaks have been added inside a given list item. Nothing we haven't seen before. Just more text added within a given list item. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to add a link on each of these instances of image facts that'll correspond to a part of the associated page. Now here you can see my very first link, Nebula 01, the Eagle Nebula. If I click on that link, I can see the image, but if I scroll down to the bottom, a little bit more text has been added to this page. Simple facts about this image, courtesy of NASA. Now, what I'd like to do, if I hit the back button, is put a link on the words image facts, if I hit the forward button on my browser, that will link directly to this part of this page. Not just the page in general, way up here at the top, which is the default action when linking to a page, to load the page at the top, but to link directly to this portion of the page. So how do we do that? We need to do two things. We need to create the area that we wish to link to, and we need to establish a link to that area. It's a little like the chicken and the egg. Which do you do first? Bottom line, it doesn't matter, as long as you do both. So what I'll do now is I'll go out to each of these image pages and add what's referred to as a destination anchor. Basically, I need to put an anchor somewhere in this page that I can link to. Since I, the web designer, decide, I might like to have my visitors be able to link directly to the facts portion of this page. That's where I'll create my anchor. So if I look in the Project Files folder again and find in the Chapter 5 folder lesson_05 nebula_01, 02, and 03, I'm going to open each of these files in TextEdit. And I'll stagger them so that they're a little easier to see. And I'll bring up Nebula 02 and Nebula 03. And I'll close down my folder windows because I've got too many windows open on this screen. And I'll just clean up my screen a little bit so that the files are easy to navigate through. I'm just tiling my file so I can go 1, 2, and 3. And I'll minimize my browser window too. So I'm not going to do anything with the home page for right now. I'm just going to tuck it away in a corner. But I am going to look at Nebula 01, 2, and 3. I'll start with the first one and scroll down to where we saw the facts that we were just looking at for the Eagle Nebula in Firefox a moment ago. What I want to do is I want to link to this area. I want to see the facts, and I want to see the data underneath that facts title. Knowing that I want the facts title to be on the screen and the associated information, I will create my destination anchor before the first character of text that I wish to see on my page. Bearing that in mind, I'm going to create an anchor link using the anchor tag that we've seen before, open caret, A, close caret, and I'm going to close this anchor tag as soon as I create it. And I'll add a carriage return or two here to make it a little easier to see. However, the syntax of this anchor tag will be different than any that we've worked on before. We're not going to use the href attribute because this is a destination anchor. This anchor will not actually go anywhere. It's just going to sit there, and it's going to have an ID and a name attribute on it that allow other links on our pages, or pages on other people's websites for that matter, to link to this portion of our page. I'm going to click inside my opening anchor tag and type space, and then I'll type name equals quote quote, and then I'll hit another space, and I'll type ID equals quote quote. We've seen the ID attribute before when we were using cascading style sheets. We're not using styles on this ID, but we are using this ID attribute so that we can create a named instance of a destination anchor. And remember what we talked about earlier. When it comes to IDs, generally speaking, we only want to have one instance of a unique name associated with an ID on a page at any given time. So the name we specify for this ID should not be used anywhere else on this page. Now, since we're creating a destination anchor for the facts portion of this page, I'll name this ID facts, and I'll give the same name facts as a value inside my name attribute. The name attribute comes to us from previous versions of HTML. It will be retired at some point in the future. But for right now, in the XHTML 1.0 transitional version of the HTML language, to create a destination anchor, we want to use both name and ID, and the value that we'll specify for both of these attributes will be the same name, in this case, facts. Now, I'm going to select this line and copy it into memory. Since the format of each of my 3 pages is the same, each of the 3 pages are presenting a series of facts at the bottom describing the image above. I'm going to create a destination anchor in each of my 2 other pages that has the exact name as the one that we've created in this file. It's perfectly fine for us to have destination anchors with the same name as long as they occur in different files. You don't want to have multiple destination anchors with the same name in a single file, but it's perfectly fine to have them with the same name in separate files. And in this case, it's desirable to have them with the same name because the page structure is the same file to file. So I'm going to switch over to my second Nebula image file, and I'll scroll down to the bottom of this growing web page, and I will locate the facts section, and I'll hit the return key on my keyboard a few times, and then from the edit menu I'll select paste to paste in that named anchor that we created a moment ago, and I'll click save, and I'll switch over to my third and final image file, and I'll scroll down once again and locate the facts portion of this page down by the bottom, and from the edit menu I'll select paste or Command V, Control V on the PC, and click save. I don't think I saved the first file, so I'll save that as well. Now I have a destination anchor above the facts section in each file. Well, that's nice, but that doesn't do us any good unless we do something with it. So I have destination anchors. I essentially have 3 places that I can go. Now I need to go to those places. So I'll bring Firefox back up, and I'll back up to my home page. Now, what I'm going to do is add links on each of these blocks of text that read image facts, but I'm going to add another parameter to my link syntax to link to my anchor links. First, I'll go over to my opening, my first image facts text reference in my first list item, which we can see here in our web page. I'll switch back over to the HTML, and I'm going to add a link on these words, image facts. I'll start just by creating the opening and closing anchor tag around the words image facts. Then I'm going to add an href attribute as we've seen before, and the link to the file that we wish to go to, which is the exact same file name as specified in the link above, which I'll just type out. But you can copy and paste. But what I need to change here is to add something. I've created my link, and this is a perfectly valid link, which will take me to Lesson 05, Nebula 01, on the words image facts. But to get to that named anchor down by the bottom of our page, which we named facts, all I need to do is after the file extension, the .htm, on our image web page, I'm going to add a pound symbol and then the name of the destination anchor, which in this case is facts. Now if I save this file, switch over to our browser, and hit reload, image facts becomes a link, and if I click on it, we link to the associated file, but we link down to the bottom, down to the facts section. Notice that my right-hand side scroll bar is all the way to the bottom. If there was more text on this page, facts would be flush up against the top of the page, and all the remaining text would be displayed below. So our link is working. Now, I'll switch back to my HTML file and add a link to the facts section for each of the 2 remaining image facts blocks of text. What I'll do is I'll copy the existing links because I know they work. I only need to modify them. Rather than take the risk of making a spelling mistake, I'll copy the link nearby the words image facts in my second list item, not forgetting to grab the closing anchor tag, and I'll do the same for the third bullet point by selecting the link that I wish to copy and then pasting that link where I want it to appear, not forgetting to close the tag. But, as with the first image facts link in our first list item, I need to add the facts named anchor to each of these link references for these links to link to the corresponding facts section on those pages. Now from the File menu, if I select Save, switch over to my web browser and back up and reload and test out my image facts links, they should take me to the corresponding parts of the associated pages, and they do.